So they cut out the federal government being the only government allowed to regulate AI. Silicon Valley might have it so that all the AIs can't define a woman, and makes the pictures of Nazis be a diverse range of races.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Remember that?
I'm so tired of seeing the same old Nazi.
I know. Do you remember that with Google's AI?
Yes.
Yeah. It was nice to see new Nazis. I've not seen too many like Nazi Chinese chicks before. And like Native American Nazis. That's what Google wants everyone to know. They go, hey, you're Native American. You had to march down the Trail of Tears. You lost your land. These blankets killed your people with the smallpox. You were given casinos and deserts and alcoholism to bide your time. Don't worry, you could gas millions of Jews if you want to. Anyway, that's Google's message, and we'll see how it goes. Welcome to Loaded Talk. I am your congressman, the third most popular candidate to ever be. I am Frank, and along with me as always...
What's up, planet Earth? I'm Bean.
Bean. Today we are sponsored by... We're not sponsored at all by these people. How do you pronounce this?
Kapai.
This stuff! It's delicious.
Fantastic.
It's from Hawaii, and it's bourbon. And us Howleys are enjoying it. I used to get angry about the idea of Hawaii being kind of a separatist sort of place, where it's like they're like, hey, leave us alone. We just want to be our own thing. As I've gotten older, I understand more and more. Like, even take out all the colonization type stuff from it. You go, yeah, leave me alone. You go down to Key West, and they're like, Conch Republic. It's like, yeah, maybe once again. Though they just tried to withdraw from participating in ICE, basically. And Florida was like, yeah, we made a rule saying you can't do that here, so you can't do that here. And so, like, Key West is trying to just be like, we don't want to do this. And then ICE came out, and they go, to be fair, that last raid where we took, like, 11 people, all of them sexual offenders, Which is one of the tough things. Is that the wire that I need? No, or is that Ethernet, that white one? It doesn't matter. Sorry. I got wires everywhere.
That is not what you need.
Okay. But that is one of those things that, like, as people get more hyped up on some of the deportations, a lot of times the day that the cause is like, today's the day that we're going to dig in and make a big stink out of it, that day always seems to enjoy people with pretty gnarly records. It's, ever since a Columbia law or whatever, that dude that had a visa or had a green card or whatever, and they're like, we're going to deport you. And you go, hey, he's kind of legal and allowed to be here. Since that guy, I haven't really heard of another guy, There was one person that they said was taken and returned or something. I don't know. But early on, there's a couple stories. Since then, every time it's been like, that record is not one I want to stand up and defend. Anyway, so I guess we can get back into that a little bit more in a minute here. Last week with Salty Jimmy, I thought it was a pretty interesting episode. If you haven't listened to it and you're interested in some of the best input you will hear on Iran in the Middle East, it's hard to get more precise information than the guy that was paid to keep an eye on the region for the last, 8 years or something. Wow. For Central Command. He kind of got lucky in that the top dogs over at Central Command like him, and when he decided that he didn't want to captain a ship, that when he wasn't going to be a lifer, you get punished a little bit, where they minimize your likelihood of getting promotions or up in rank, and so, but the kind of not so bad end of it was he basically got back-to-back at CENTCOM in Tampa, and I think he had to go to Bahrain for 1 year during COVID, so he stayed in a hotel during COVID, and then came back, and then basically finished out at CENTCOM. And so it's one of those, they had to move him at least once just to make it fair, It's like, you can't do continuous. But he does good work, and everybody there was just like, we want this guy. So he basically, whether it was for special because in Tampa, it's CENTCOM and SOCOM, so it's Special Operations and Central Command. And so he did both of those, and I think throughout the entirety, he was keeping an eye on the Middle East. He's written more on the Houthis and on Yemen than Scott Horton and every libertarian.
Interesting.
Yeah, outside of Jimmy, it's only libertarians who have talked about Yemen at all. Like Dave Smith, Scott Horton, and then Jimmy. and Jimmy would even talk. He's like, you write the reports on Yemen, turn them in. No one cares. It's like, I doubt anybody's going to read it there yet. Yeah, okay. Like, no one cares. No one cares. So anyway, if you've not had a chance to listen or watch, go back. It's on Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, lots of good stuff. You get to learn about why this message of 2 weeks away from a bomb has existed for 20 years. The logic is ridiculous. It's comparable to the way they give you studies on vaccines. 100% success. It's like, what does that mean? It's like, well, that one person died, and once they were gone, it worked for everybody. You go, oh. Seems like 50% at best. So, yeah.
Or flattening the curve during COVID.
Oh, man. Did I send this over to me? I don't think I did. I guess the FDA is pushing for more clear language on the COVID vaccines. To talk a little bit, because earlier they slid in the language where it's like myocarditis, pericarditis, after the however many years of saying that's just total horse bucky, it's a conspiracy theory, and then they slid it in there on the cash, and so then so I think they're trying to get pharmaceutical companies to mention the numbers a little bit more from some of the studies they did, just to be like, hey, it's not like 1 in a million. It's more like whatever it actually is. But it does seem like part of the Maha arm of the MAGA movement might actually be making some sort of headway. Or, I don't know. Things pop up. I mean, there are lots of companies that have been opting out of certain dyes, like Nestle did, and a big one, General Mills maybe. And so, some big names saying like, oh, mostly we don't use them, so we'll take them out of all the stuff we do use it for. So that's something, But sometimes the stuff that comes out, they go, we're going to do this. I go, I don't know what any of that means. It's like, okay, just keep doing your thing, I guess. Let's just try to make it less obnoxious. Do something about the lobbyists, maybe. I don't know. One big thing that RFK wanted was for members of, the regulatory arms not to be able to get a job with a pharmaceutical, that hot back and forth thing. Well, our last Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, who used to be the head of Central Command in Tampa, where he helped fake fatality or casualty numbers in the war for Obama to make sure it looked better. But, it was just a clerical error, no charges, no big issue,
Casualties of the enemy?
Casualties of us, our casualties.
Okay.
So, like, while Obama was commander-in-chief, there was a chunk of time that was not great, and it was probably around an election or a vote or something, and Lloyd Austin, who would bring these reports to Secretary of Defense or whoever, his numbers were off a little in a way that made things look a lot more optimistic and allowed the president to say a lot more optimistic things. And then oopsie doopsie, he fabricated those numbers. And then just out of the blue, he retires, civilian. Then out of the blue, Biden becomes president and it's like, hey, that guy's going to be my Secretary of Defense. So, the VP under Obama was like, hey, you did your job. Here's your promotion. And so when while he was had his hearing, everybody's got to go through the Senate stuff, and they asked him, well, you are coming from a lobbying, like you retired and became a lobbyist. You're about to be Secretary of Defense of the United States, can you tell us that you won't go back to being a lobbyist? You won't, because you don't know. You could be lobbying, like as long as you do the paperwork, you can be a lobbyist for, foreign countries, or don't do paperwork and be a lobbyist for Israel. Either way. But, so, I promise. It's kind of like how my kid used to do, I promise. Kick everything over. So he promised. Anyway, a couple days ago, he started up with some of Biden's bros. A consulting firm.
Oh, this will be good.
He's not technically registered as a lobbyist.
Okay.
But the company does do lobbying that he helped establish. So he has ticked off both Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, and old E.T. alien himself, Rick Scott. So Rick Scott and Elizabeth Warren have had this gross union where they got together and they wrote a steamy letter together.
That is weird.
So both of them are calling him out. When that happens, you just, you always have to pause when, there's two names like that, and you go, either this guy is so gross that these turds find his actions repulsive, or maybe he's a great guy. Because that's when you get everybody going after it, it's either okay, well, this is a witch hunt, or that guy's a piece of garbage. I'm willing to bet on this one. Garbage. Faking casualty numbers is not an honorable thing to do. He also, as Secretary of Defense, remember he disappeared for a prolonged period of time as he dealt with cancer or something.
I do remember that.
And he didn't tell the commander-in-chief or anyone. And then it was just people kind of found out he was in the hospital. And was like, well, everything's covered. It's everything, okay, cool. But you didn't tell the commander-in-chief of the United States, because, you're the Secretary of Defense. You do answer to somebody. But, I guess during the Biden years, what's the point of telling him? He's not going to remember.
Answer into a puppet.
Yeah, you just what are you going to tell him? He forgets tomorrow, or if you just disappear for 7 weeks and you come back, you go, I've been here the whole time.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Maybe that was the play. He's just Commander-in-Chief, my ass. It's I'll get to it whenever I get to it. But yeah, that's one of the stories that's been bubbling up because it's summertime and news is slow. What do you got? What are you about to say?
Oh, nothing. Just this delicious.
Oh, yeah. I saw it hit your lips and I was like, oh, he's about to make an exclamation. It's so good when it touches your lips. These notes are right. I do taste the...
Because it's popping.
Mm-hmm. The honey. Candied walnut. Rich mahogany. All right. So one thing that has been going on for a month or so now, of course, is the quote-unquote big, beautiful bill. We went over it at one point. We pointed out some of the bad parts about it. We posed some questions about the tax cuts being talked up as the deficit as opposed to new expenditures. I mean, there are new expenditures too, but it seems like a majority of the new deficits the CBO declares comes from tax cuts, some of which already exist, which is another thing. Republicans actually have their own math on this, which of course they always do, but actually it might be in the CNN article. I'm going to scroll down. Let's see. Oh, people student. I got. Here we go. People worried about national debt.
I'm just seeing all the subtitles. So you scroll by. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, there's a lot. Not CNN. Okay. Republicans have embraced a budget gimmick to argue the impact of the bill is much smaller. Okay, well, that didn't actually detail it. So basically what the CBO takes... The CBO is not allowed to, process things, right? They go, as everything is today, new spending, new cut. So like, say it was say we were at a 90% tax rate, right? For everybody.
Jesus.
Yeah, flat tax 90%. Well, FDR days, the top tax bracket was 90%. And things were a little slow. But people seem to hide a lot of their wealth for some reason.
No.
Yeah, believe it or not. But like, say, it's like, all right, we got a 90% tax bracket. You got a lot of billionaires just putting their money into a big Scrooge McDuck vault. People are working, they're trying. And so they go, all right, we're going to propose a cut, and we're going to cut it down to a 17% flat tax. So the CBO, the way that they would score that is they would take how much tax revenue that came in, and whatever that number equals at 90%, they'd have to reduce the 73 points worth of revenue in there, and they go, well, this is going to cost the country this many millions, billions of dollars. And so if you argued that, like, all right, well, old Richie Rich over there, once he's not worried about paying 90% in taxes, so he's going to probably invest the money, try to make some money, invest in some new businesses, maybe that'll employ lots of people, maybe GDP goes up. So maybe in the end, as oftentimes happens, when you reduce the income tax percentages, you actually increase tax revenues that hit the IRS because of productivity increasing. They raise taxes on cigarettes to get people to smoke less cigarettes. They tax your income to make you make less income. It's a way to punish you for being productive. They tax you for employing people to make it so you don't employ too many people. It's taxes are a punishment. So anyway, because of that, oftentimes reducing taxes increases productivity, but the CBO would not be allowed to predict those sorts of increases. They just say everything's constant today. So what the Republicans are saying is the CBO is scoring making the Trump tax cuts permanent, and some other tax cuts are getting an extension. They're getting scored as new tax cuts, and they're saying, well, they shouldn't be scored as a new cut. It's the same as it is this, so it wouldn't add to the deficit. I guess other than compared to what they predicted next year's budget would be, is probably what CBO would argue. And so the Republicans are saying, like, all right, well, scrap all those scores, and then once you look at it this way, it reduces the deficit. I don't know. What?
I mean, come on. Extensions, things stay the same. As long as you don't spend more, but you're going to spend more, then it's going to cost more no matter what.
And that's the real challenge to it, of course, is like, stop spending money. You have to stop spending money. So anyway, we with the big, beautiful bill, it went through the House. House debated it.
I bet they did.
Yeah, they debated how to make it spend more money, basically. Right. They took it from, they were like, the SALT deductions, we need to jack those up so that blue states and blue cities can write off their taxes, their horrible tax policy, and make us in Florida pay for it. They had other little tweaks, like, okay, now can we do it? And the House goes, yeah, we passed it. Goes to the Senate, and they go, this is abomination. We're going to put the SALT back at 10,000. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then they start debating again. And so they don't pass the House bill. They don't pass their tweak version. They pass yet a different version. Vote was 50-50. J.D. Vance came in with the tie-breaking vote as the head of the Senate. So that passed. Oh, and one of the interesting things that come from J.D. Vance casting that tie-breaking vote, we got to see a little bubbling of who might be the Democratic candidates for the next election, right? It's early. This is year one of president's term, of course. In year 3, we're going to really start seeing some jockeying and all that kind of stuff. But, the presumptive nominee for the Republicans is J.D. Vance, unless something horrible happens. He's been on the forefront of messaging, like Trump has too, but, like, they've been putting Vance out there a lot. talking about the policies. He's very well spoken. He does a good job defending the job. Defending the policies, defending Trump, and all that kind of stuff. And so anyway, I think in that role he has done well. So I know he'll probably face some primary opponents. But if I had to guess, it's going to be J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio. And I think they'll probably cruise on. But so J.D. Vance, right? What have you heard so far as one of the biggest knocks from the Democrats on the big beautiful bill?
Cuts to
Medicaid.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's the thing. Cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. It's gonna all the poor people and old people and infirmed. They're not going to get the health care they need. And so regardless of how people respond to that, that's the messaging. Well, 3 people came out with not identical, but pretty identical messages of J.D. Vance just cast the tie-breaking vote to take away Medicaid from, the elderly and infirmed and the poor that need help. You could have done anything, and this is what you did with your time, right? So that was Newsom from California. It was old Pete Buttigieg and AOC.
Of course.
Who will be old enough to be president by the next election. So those 3 are probably in the hopper. I do expect Josh Shapiro to get in there.
I was just going to say.
The thing is, the Democrats need to be able to get away. On the one hand, they're very loyal recipients of AIPAC money. And they're defenders of Israel. Even Fetterman, who won't wear a suit for anything, will wear a suit for Bibi's visit. He'll probably wear it again in 5 days when Bibi comes back. Bibi, come back. But outside of that, they do have a bit of an anti-Semitism problem. If you look at the race in New York City for mayor, now granted, this was a guy that he did not have lots of direct hits against him. He was kind of a third place. He was a dark horse candidate. He was not a leader. People weren't taking shots at him. They weren't analyzing him that much. Young, good-looking guy, immigrant background. And so the youth came out and voted for him a lot. That being said, he has not been able to say that he doesn't support a global intifada. And when asked about it directly, he's like, listen, language is important. I don't think we should be cracking down on language. I want to just, I want to create a New York for the New Yorkers to help people that need it. And like, okay, but just because some people are concerned, I mean, you would reject a global intifada, right? It's like, the language thing is something I just don't think we should be policing language. And you go, oh. And he's been a little bit supportive of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a bit of a possibly a sponsor of terrorism around the globe. Maybe some NGO cash in there.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so he's, I'd say he's definitely not pro-Israel. He was the only one during the mayoral debates. They were all like, I love it. Like Cuomo was just like, as soon as I'm elected, I'm going to give my first remarks in the nation of Israel. And it's like, well, you're being the mayor of New York City. What the hell does this have to do with any country? Like, it'd be weird. Like, it's weird. Like, just do it from Manhattan. Like, it's New York City. But he was the only one that was like, But he's more of the pro-Palestinian camp. But he has come out, and in addition, he defines himself as a democratic socialist. He has previously defined himself as a bit of a communist. That's how his words.
Josh Shapiro.
No, not Josh Shapiro. Oh no, the mayor, the Democratic.
Sorry.
Yeah. I just blanked on it.
In my head, I'm like, Josh Shapiro.
Yeah, no,
Supporting the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah, no.
Interesting.
Yeah, queers for Palestine.
Right.
No, but old what's his name, Mandami or whatever. So like he won in these big numbers, and you go, well, that's interesting. You look at the protest about, supporting Palestine, which obviously with the Israeli strikes in the Gaza region, it has been particularly egregious. So you can see, a youth swell of support in opposition to blowing up babies and stuff. So you kind of see why the numbers would be an all-time high. But we've also seen how a lot of them devolve a little bit into more of a, shouting Nazi slogans and, throw the Jew down the well and that kind of thing. So I think right now there's a problem in the Democratic Party in that they're trying to toe that line. I think they want to be, the percentage of, what do you call it? Not Orthodox. What do you call like the casual church on Sunday type?
Like Reform?
Yeah, like Reform Jews are like 80+% Democrat, and like non-practicing Jewish people. Like that group, like Democrats just own, and then like the conservative and Orthodox kind of go the other way. But so Democrats don't want to lose them, but there's a lot of youth that are on like the screw Israel kind of side of things, and more of the river to the sea type. And so I don't know, like they'll have to be able to move, because if they're not willing to like be like, hey, listen, we think Israel's doing bad things in Palestine. Also, don't say Nazi slogans. Like Jews should not be shouldn't be chased down in the streets or in their schools or whatever. Like, if they're not willing to like kind of come out in more of that position, I wonder if Shapiro has a lane. Because he's the strong in my book. He's the strongest candidate that's out there right now.
The guy's signing bombs. I mean, it's awesome.
Oh, was he? That makes sense. Of course he was. There you go. That makes him a stronger candidate. But he's, he's sharp. He's well-spoken. And, like, he comes off a bit tough, or at least masculine, where a lot of the dudes in the Democrat Party don't. They come off soft, or, then they all have to, like, pretend to be masculine. And so like Tim Walz, I'd kick his butt, I would. I'm just I'm a rough and tough kind of hunter guy. And you had like John Kerry's like, where can I get me a hunting license? And it's like, you have never said get me in your life. But they all have to do it because they're all like either just like posh little pampered Northeast United States private school kind of kids with the $60,000 a year education. They're either that or they're, effeminate, just in that kind of left wing tilt that everything took, where like, toxic masculinity, therefore you need to be, subservient and a sissy, so that you can prey on women. And they won't see you coming.
Don't give their secret away.
Yeah, I mean, that's the secret. Every male feminist is just the creepiest guy on the planet that's looking to lash out as soon as your back is turned. But no, so Josh Shapiro like seems like he'd be the right mix, when the things be like, the first Jewish president of the United States. I don't know if that's a positive or a negative in today's day. But yeah, so I don't know. These three popped up. I don't think AOC or Buttigieg or Newsom stands a chance in a general election. I
don't even know why Newsom would even. Why bother?
He's been ever since he wanted it. He wanted it this year when everyone's like, should Biden step down? So remember he debated DeSantis. And he was like, I'm just here to back up Biden. And it hurt his performance because he had to back up Biden constantly. And so he did a horrible job in general, but I think part of it was also like not being able to say anything ill about Biden policies. And, 2-term governor of California, big state, going through Democratic primary. Kamala Harris's plan was to get those California votes, which automatically lifts you up in the rankings. Of course, she couldn't last that long because no one liked her. So I think he thinks that, there's a path there, and there probably is a path to get the nomination. As far as in a general election, trying to hold up California's record, and all you got to do is just send someone with cameras through the streets, you want this? Is this what you want? This is what you got. This is California policies. We can bring them everywhere, so it falls apart. But yeah, that's those cats all came out saying very similar things, as if they all have very similar advisors advising towards a very similar goal, which is start planting the commercials now, standing up to J.D. Vance when he, if not for J.D. Vance, your Medicaid wouldn't be stripped away. So yeah, big beautiful bill's back in the Senate, or it's back in the House, and they can either pass it as is, or they change it, send it back to the Senate, or they just vote it down. So I got curious a little bit how things were changing, and I decided I'm going to look up the worldwide leader in news, CNN, because they always have the straight dope for you. This actually is fairly benign, but so this is, here's how Trump's mega bill will affect you. So, okay, we're going to go to this first one here, and then we're going to talk about it for a second. People in Medicaid, millions will lose coverage. Okay. For many Medicaid enrollees, the biggest impact would be the new work requirement. Certain able-bodied Americans aged 19 to 64 who are enrolled through Medicaid expansion would have to work, volunteer, attend school, or participate in job training at least 80 hours per month. It's like 20 hours a week. The mandate would also apply to parents of children ages 14 and older. Overall, Medicaid enrollees could face other changes, and states would receive less federal funding for the program. This could force some states to eliminate certain things, so it could or couldn't. So it may or may not cause certain benefits to be reduced or enrollment to be tightened. That might not happen. Every time they say could, that's the same thing as saying might not. Plus, many enrollees would face more paperwork and verification requirements, which could or could not make it harder for some to apply for and maintain the benefits. It would delay the implementation of some provisions, and 2 Biden rules aimed at streamlining enrollment and renewing coverage. Nearly 12 million more people would be uninsured in 2034, according to the CBO. All right, so this first one is interesting because it's also part of that Republican budgetary trick I was telling you about. So Democrats say this is bad. It could cause 12 million people to lose Medicaid because the Republicans are this bill cuts Medicaid for 12 million people, is what kind of they say, right? Republicans are saying the Medicaid savings are going to be massive. And it's going to offset so much stuff, right? Did you hear anything about any money being cut from Medicaid?
No.
Yeah. So they got this work requirement, right? So you got to put in 20 hours a week, either looking for a job, training for a job, volunteering somewhere. There's going to be plenty of churches and things, I'm sure, where you can get a slip signed and all that kind of, it's like when they do those... when you're on unemployment, you have to be looking for a job, and they just go, oh, yeah, where'd you apply? You go, I applied here, I applied here, I applied here. Sometimes they got that form. We have people come in every now and then, hey, you hiring? Nope. Will you sign this sheet of paper for me? No, I'm not going to do that. But both of them are just betting that this work requirement alone will cause, what do they say, 12 million people?
By 2034.
By 2034, yeah. Which is how you always look at, budget stuff's always 10 years. It's always that's the way you never have to, like, face the reality of a program. Like, within 10 years, this should be good. It's like, man, you don't know what's going to happen in 2 years, you know? So, Republicans say the cuts are going to come from this work requirement being so effective that, you know, people are going to get jobs and get off of Medicaid. Democrats are saying this thing's going to be so nasty that 12 million people are going to lose their Medicaid and they need help and they won't be able to get it. This is all posturing. It's all posturing. If you're able-bodied, because that's what it says, certain able-bodied Americans, 19 to 64. So if you're classified as not able-bodied, you know, you're on disability, well, you've been classified as not able-bodied. And I bet you there's a lot of people on Medicaid that I bet you maybe most of them.
Plus, I mean, the age range for Medicaid is 19 to 64. Those who are 64 are going to switch when they turn 65 to Medicare. Right. So,
yeah.
Automatically, there's some people that aren't going to need it anymore.
Yeah. And it's, I have a feeling that and
there'll be new people that go on that need it, you know, like it's...
Oh, sure. Like Social Security.
Yeah.
Unfunded liabilities. But that's the thing, like, I would like to see the stats of how many people in Medicaid are also on disability, because I'd be shocked if it was less than half. You know, I would imagine damn near everybody. Like, if you're able-bodied, I mean, quote-unquote able, if you theoretically should be able-bodied, like, you're either mentally disabled or physically disabled. Otherwise, you know, I'm just, you know, you could have a crap job. You could be supporting too many kids and have a crap job and just not able to make it. Like, I'm sure that is a percentage, but those people won't be affected because they're working, you know?
Yep.
And then I'm sure there is a certain, there's a percentage, of course, of people that just do the welfare culture thing. And that is all colors of the rainbow, except for probably, I bet you there's an Asian type. I don't know which Asian it would be. Maybe those Laotians. What was that Clint Eastwood movie about the car? You know?
Yeah, I can't remember.
It's like Gran Turismo.
Gran Torino.
Torino, yeah.
Yeah.
And his neighborhood was some.
I think they were Laos. Were they Laos?
No, there's something else. But
Cambodian.
Might have been some chunk of Cambodian. They had some Hmong.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Hmong. I don't even know what that is. But anyway, but that looked in that movie. It made it look pretty hood culture. So maybe there's a type of Asian that does the welfares. I don't know. Probably not a lot of Jews.
Well,
yeah,
probably not.
Yeah, but all the other people. What I'm saying is all the colors of the rainbow, except for probably not the Jews and Asians. They don't do that. Anyway. So, like, so with this, I think, you know, scaremongering on the Democrats, and then very optimistic mathematics on the Republicans, I would say. So that's how it'll affect some people.
I mean, to me, the ultimate goal of it is just to get people to work who are able to. That's what I see it as. But
the work requirement, I mean, that's the idea, is just if you're just trying to do welfare culture and you're just trying to do that, maybe sell some drugs on the side, or do whatever under the table on the side, where it's just like, look, time to not be working on the side because you're going to lose all. Because, you know, there's a chunk of people that don't want to get a legit job because it'll negatively affect how much welfare and assistance they get. You know, they go, if I make $20,000 a year, well, suddenly I'll get paid this much less in benefits. And so I actually make less money overall, you know, so it's better to make nothing because I get paid more making nothing than if I had, you know, some income. And you get that to a degree other than, like, why don't you just better yourself, you know, go out and get a job and work your way up and stop being a leech on society. But especially nowadays, there's multi-generational stuff where you're born into it, you're trained into it. And, you know, but those people, it's like, all right, work legit. because either work legit for 20 hours a week and keep your benefits, or you lose everything, So, I mean, it is for those people who are making a game of it. I mean, I know, especially like in my wife's hometown, people that she knows, friends of friends or relatives of, whatever. There's so many people that are just gaming the system. They get paid under the table, and they live with a partner, but they classify the partner as a roommate because it'll negatively affect the money. All this kind of crap. And so it's just part of the game. Whatever about food stamps. All right, let's see how things have changed. So they got a whole lot about how it might make things more difficult on affordable care. So they go, hey, you're going to lose some of the rebates and stuff for Affordable Care Act policies and make them less affordable. You go, well, I thought the point of Obamacare is it was supposed to make everything cheaper for insurance, and at this point, everything has just skyrocketed. And now you're saying, like, well, if we take away this government program, it'll really go up. It's like, well, it doesn't sound like you acted to make things affordable at all, guys. Big surprise, of course, big surprise. Snap. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Let me go back to what we got. So affected. So taxpayers might not even notice the tax cut extensions. Okay. Cool. You notice if they went up, I guess.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Captain Obvious.
Senior citizens get a temporary tax break, so they get a boost to their standard deduction. I guess that was Trump wanted to eliminate taxes on Social Security. I guess he couldn't get that done. And so instead they'll do a tax deduction to try and make up for it. Student loans. So they're going to tax private colleges that have over $2 million in endowments. Whose endowments exceed $2 million per enrolled student. So Harvard, Yale, Stanford, MIT, and Princeton. Imagine that, $2 million per student in an endowment. And they still charge out the wazoo, Let's see, you can deduct interest payments on car payments still. You get more of a tax credit for kids, up by $200 a kid. No. Single parents earning up to $200,000 and married couples earning up to $400,000 would qualify for that extra $200. Whoop-de-doo. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. If your children are 14 or older, you'd have to work to continue receiving your Medicaid and your food stamps. Already work. Okay. This is the other big effect. Is the Trump accounts are still in there. Or the MAGA accounts, the baby bonus. This is something they should just remove. I heard somebody making a pitch and they go, well, look, if you put it in there, you don't touch it, this many years passes, we're at $1 million. And he's like, if you do this now for these kids born in these years, then possibly in this many decades, you can eliminate the Social Security thing altogether because all these people will be well positioned. Which, I mean, if no one touches it, and it's true. I think it's probably better if you eliminate Social Security altogether and said in perpetuity, every child that gets born gets $1,000. Or because we don't do Social Security anymore, and they don't qualify for it in the future, I'd go, yeah, that's going to be net positive, $1,000 now.
It sounds like a replay of pensions all over again, which is how the baby boomers got so rich.
It's like you're getting a
without
pension.
The company.
Yeah, like you just get $1,000 for being born.
Right.
But if you let it invest and, grow and don't touch, and you can add to it later. So, it could be, your own little kind of 401k deal that started when you were born. Maybe your parents paid in, maybe they didn't. By the time you're 18, you can use it for school, nest egg, whatever. But theoretically, and I don't know, this person could have a point. It's probably all BS anyway. It's just government spending, No matter what, it's not going to work in that ideal way you say. But, if the idea is that everyone born after today or whatever day they set is no longer eligible for Social Security. Instead, you're going to have this account that should be worth a ton of money if you don't screw it up, and it's only going to cost $1,000 tax dollars. I'd say go for it.
Yeah, especially since it says the parents can add up to $5,000 a year to it.
Yeah.
So you could build it even bigger.
Yeah, and like it should grow. I mean, it says it's just interest growing. Like it should be invested.
It's invested in an index fund.
Oh, there you go.
Which one though? Do you get an option?
I mean, I don't see why. I mean, there's probably going to do a 401k type thing where you get to choose it. I would hope.
Yeah, crypto index funds.
Did you see that BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF outperformed their index funds?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Bitcoin. All right. So, yeah, I don't know. They probably should just get rid of this MAGA account thing because it's going to be expensive and stupid, especially because it'll benefit like 4 years worth of children. Well, I guess the idea is you can't take away like elected people don't like to take away free money, but that's the problem. If you're not taking away Social Security, then it's just like committing us to $1,000 per baby. And do you think that's going to make migrants less likely to have anchor babies? And I know they're trying to fight the birthright citizenship, but guess what? That wasn't ruled on. So as of now, anchor babies are still a thing. Now imagine anchor babies that also got you $1,000. You know?
Well, yeah, and when we go back to the Medicaid, all the people that are using Medicaid not in the best way will just keep having kids.
Yeah.
And just train more system abusers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's part of it. That was
you get $1,000 just because we had you.
Now you can't touch it though until you're 18 though. That's the catch. So you got to show some patience. But you know there's going to be people who go, "Hey man, tell you what. I give you $1,000 today.
I know exactly.
If you give me the rights to it in 18 years." And they go, "What?" And they go, "I guess." Or it's like, "Tell you what, I'll give you $2,000 today."
I did not know where you were going with this.
Oh yeah, because like think about it. You go, somebody's got a bunch of kids. They got 4 kids, and you go, "Hey, tell you what, I give you $10,000 cash right now, but I get the rights to all 4 of their accounts in 18 when they're all hit 18." And you go, "So there's 4,000 in there now. You'll give me 10,000?" Yeah, that's right. And then you get 4 accounts invested in the S&P or whatever for 18 years of growth, and then you get the rights to it.
Dude,
you know it's gonna happen.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's brilliant.
Yeah, we're gonna take your money, people. There's gonna be commercials about it. Do you need money now and you can't wait for your children's MAGA account to mature? Call us now. Reverse mortgages.
Wow. Now my mind's rolling.
Yeah, like, we can rip off poor people. Ends up you can get rich off the poor. But, yeah, I guarantee you there's going to be that and a million other scams. Okay. So, this does still have the no tax on tips and overtime. Of course, they did it so that it only lasts during the Trump year. So, don't elect J.D. Vance in 2028. And these things will, all of a sudden, all you service industry people will have taxes again. So you better vote the right way. Employees who work jobs that traditionally receive tips could deduct up to $25,000 in tip income from the federal income taxes. All workers who receive overtime could deduct $12,500.
As long as up to $100K, which it does not say.
Yeah, if you make more than $160K, you would not qualify. Well, so the scribbles need to still stash some stuff away. This sucks. The crappy thing about that is that's a deduction.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping that if this thing passed, I would not have to track tips on paychecks anymore, because I'd be like, well, no taxes anyway. But no, they got to deduct them, so I still have it in perpetuity. Still have the paperwork.
If it's more than their than the standard.
Employees who work could deduct, but that's the thing. You can deduct, but you still have to have the tip income reported in order to deduct it. Okay, they're cutting solar and wind taxes. Immigrants might not qualify for benefits. Illegal immigrants should not. If you're not a citizen, you don't get benefits. If you're in your first 10 years of citizenship, you should not get benefits. You know? Like, that's one of my things. Like, it's, you know, I'm sure someone can argue about the constitutionality of it. If you're a citizen, you're a citizen, aren't you? But I think, you know, part of the deal, if you're coming over and deciding to join us, is like, cool. You waive your right to, you know, assistance outside of disability. You know, when you have some horrible accident or something. But you waive your rights to, you know, welfare and all this kind of crud for the first 10 years that you're here, you know?
Unless you buy the golden ticket.
Unless you buy the golden ticket.
Then you get it all. Yes. $1 million, you get it all.
That is pretty funny. I wonder how many they sold. At first they said they were selling a couple.
I think I heard at least 100 the last time I heard about it.
It's fun. I mean, whatever. That's the thing. Like, this thing needs to be opened up in a different way. So it's like, hey, millionaires, you can give us $1 million and just buy your way in. Why not? Other countries do it. That's fine with them. You know, you just buy your way in. Okay. This is a silly one from CNN. Do I still have the website up right now?
Yes.
Okay. The wealthy generally will get wealthier. Do you know why? Because that's how it works. You know, what are they going to do? Like, just burn their money?
Right.
I mean, like, unless they're going to take on a lot of debt and do stupid things, they're going to get wealthier. So while all households would see tax reduced, some 60% of the benefits would go to those making $217,000 or more, the top 20%. These folks would receive an average tax cut of $12,500 or 3% of their after-tax income in 2026. From what? Is that the continuation? The lowest income households who earn $35,000 or less would receive an average tax cut of only $150, less than 1% of their after-tax income. So 1% instead of 3%. Middle income households will see their tax reduced by basically 2.3%. I know this is supposed to be making a big deal. And granted, you know, the dollars make it a bigger deal, but you go, hey, if you pay almost no taxes, you save 1%. If you pay pretty much no taxes, you save 2%. If you do pay taxes, and at $217,000 or more, you pay taxes like that you feel, you know, 3% you save, so whatever. Saves you now. Who cares? Millionaires can't file for unemployment.
Doesn't take into account the historic cuts.
Yeah.
The
historic cuts to the nation's safety net program, which would hurt lower. Oh, the Medicaid. They're saying, like, Medicaid, of course, means you're going to be hurt even more. So if you're a millionaire, you get fired. You can't do unemployment. Let's see. Oh, there's another one. Let's see. Maybe I closed the wrong thing. I did. Well, so they cut some stuff out. So they cut out the federal government being the only government allowed to regulate AI, because they had that thing, states can't regulate it, only the federal government. And it's one of those things where I go, I don't like regulation, so saying, oh, only one layer of regulation, you go, all right. But that one layer should probably be the most local layer. In reality, you could have city, state, and federal regulation, but whatever. You're going to have a hotbed of places. There'll be, Silicon Valley might have it so that all the AIs can't define a woman, and makes the pictures of Nazis be a diverse range of of races.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, remember that?
I'm so tired of seeing the same old Nazi.
I know. Do you remember that with Google's AI? Yes. Yeah, it was nice to see new Nazis. I've not seen too many like Nazi Chinese chicks before, and like Native American Nazis.
That's a reach.
I hadn't seen many of them. Now I have, thanks to Google. The important thing to remember, Charlie, Google's trying to let everyone know that no matter what your background is, you too can set millions of Jews on fire.
That's great messaging, Google.
That's what Google wants everyone to know. They go, hey, you're a Native American. You had to march down the Trail of Tears. You lost your land. These blankets killed your people. The smallpox. You were given casinos and deserts and alcoholism to bide your time. Don't worry. You could gas millions of Jews if you want to. Anyway, that's Google's message. We'll see how it goes. But no, so we'll have areas that have, interesting moral standards for the AIs, and we'll have some areas that have less regulation or maybe different moral standings where, I don't know, might get some Bible Belt regulatory mechanisms.
Yeah, thinking about that, it's just going to make areas even weirder than they already are when you enter them.
Yeah, imagine like you go into Chattanooga, that there's an Optimus robot like, howdy y'all, welcome. Well, God bless you so much. Don't forget, as the Lord said in Luke 20:13. Whatever. I don't know. But yeah, like a bunch of Optimus things, like quoting scripture at you somewhere, and then like you go out to California, and for whatever reason, instead of a nice, tall, slender Optimus, they're kind of R2-D2 squatty, blue hair. They got nose rings, even though they don't have a nose. And they just go, yeah, patriarchy. Yeah. And you go, hey, can you help me find a good steak restaurant? They go, meat is murder. And then, like, all of a sudden, out of their chest, just a can of blood gets thrown at you. Well, California, you know how these bots are. So I don't know. We might have weird pockets like that.
The future is going to be very weird.
Future is going to be weird. Did you see, speaking of Optimus, the next Neuralink patient?
Yes.
With a little virtual hand?
Mm-hmm.
So it shows, so basically he ain't got no hand. And is he missing both arms or just
I don't
one?
even remember.
Well, at least one. And so they showed him and his brother playing paper, rock, scissors, And so it was pretty quick. You could even see when he was not fully committed to scissors, kind of like trail the fingers behind in his mind. Like the virtual hand, I thought was one of the most impressive parts. Because, we all do it a little bit when you're like tie. You go, I don't know, I'm going to go paper, scissors, like you kind of throw out this little T-Rex arm thing going, that was clearly paper. So he pulled that. And so like, I know this seems weird. Like it's not something a virtual hand isn't that helpful, but they're going to try and suit them up with an Optimus hand. And if they can, and UCF did a lot, like pre-Neuralink with making nice prosthetics that, like, when their big thing was holding an egg, but like UCF was already down that line quite a bit, or at least a UCF grad. So now with Neuralink, they should be able to get them a top flight Optimus hand that can, like, hold an egg without breaking it and juggle it if so inclined. Yeah, the future's going to be weird. Let me see, what else is... Oh, yeah, we don't have that much time left. Here's a big breaking news. Your personal hero and mine, Sean Diddy Combs.
He did.
The most pure entertainer that has ever existed. Some say the best artist of the last 200 years. Some say it. He is most likely going home. This whole witch hunt, Russia that y'all tried to do in Diddy, it didn't work. So basically, Diddy was found guilty of 2 counts of traveling to an act in prostitution, and everything else not guilty.
Wow.
And other charges were dropped before that anyway. So he's been in jail for how many months, prison for how many months, And so take all perception, take everything out of it, take all the scandalism out of it, all the stories of freak-offs and all this kind of stuff. And you go, all right, so you have a first-time offender. Diddy doesn't have a record, I don't think. You have a first-time offender on a charge of traveling in order to, buy a hooker, basically. And that's it. Twice he did. The guy, he got you twice. First-time offender. A lot of times you'd get a fine, probation, community service, right? But most time you wouldn't have been sitting in prison for however many. Has it been a year? How long has it been?
It feels like it has been.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't know. So let's say it's been a year. Even if it's been 6 months, it doesn't matter. Okay, for some offender, normally probation for, let's say, 2 years. Call it 2 years. Community service. Well, you've done a year or 6 months in actual prison. That's time served. Go home. No probation. I mean, if his lawyer's worth a damn, and it's California, right? Let's see.
Yep.
Was it? Okay.
Nice.
Let's see. So on Wednesday, finding him guilty of 2 out of 5 charges. Not guilty on racketeering conspiracy, which was his heaviest. Yeah, no one cares about that.
To Ventura. Yeah.
Yeah, so California, right? So, but yeah, so like, he wasn't charged in the whole beating Cassie thing, right? That wasn't a thing. And the problem was, at the beginning of the trial, Cassie's testimony was actually not damning for Diddy at all. Because it was damning to him in the eyes of people thinking him not to be a monster. When she was like, look, he made me keep doing drugs and then taking IVs and all this stuff so that I could keep buying for, 48 hours or whatever. And he would bring in a male hooker and then he'd sit in the corner and he'd throw lube on us and stuff. And there we go. But then there'd be these text messages where she was like, oh, can't wait for the next one or whatever. And so, which she could be, well, I was trying to be a good, just what I was trying to be supportive. I didn't understand. I was young and all this kind of stuff. You go, okay, that's fine. You're young. You're stupid. You were being drugged and you were being made promises of being famous. And, as you got older, you went, oh, God, I regret it. And he's got so much footage of me, that God knows, But it did not make the jury feel like she was a victim or that she hadn't consented, because even in her testimony, she did not play the victim too much. She talked about the things that made her uncomfortable. And, it was just one of those things you go, okay, mistake, he's a creep. The crime here seems to be the buying the hooker, which seems like you were in charge of most of the time, like on his orders, but still. So I think what this is overcharging without your case. I think they thought the case would just come together with some of the stuff that, you'd hear in the news about the guys that Diddy got, and Carl Winslow and Meek Mill, whoever else that, maybe had to get run through, maybe Bieber, I don't know. None of them came to testify.
Wonder why.
Yeah, not one of them came to testify. There was no charges. There was nothing about that. You basically had a bunch of male hookers show up saying, yeah, I was hired and I get paid to show up at these things and do my hooker thing. There's the Punisher, that guy. Was that his name, the Punisher? There's one guy that had a name like that. It was like the Punisher. He showed up and it was just like, I imagine he was an endowed fella and thus the punishing. But yeah, so like, I don't know. There's all these stories, but none of them were necessarily talking about crimes. I mean, like doing drugs. Okay, fine. But like, what drugs? I'm not entirely sure. Okay. Like, do you have any of the money? No. Okay. Well, there's no possession. There's no distribution. You know, he threw raucous parties at his house that people attended willingly. Okay. And like maybe people say they got drugged there. It's like, okay, was that any of your charges? Oh, it wasn't any of your charges? And you can't prove it? You don't have a cup? You don't have anything? Like they overcharged, and I don't know if they just thought evidence would come pouring in, but it did not.
I wonder if he countersues back.
Yeah, that was one of my first thoughts was if I was him, I'd sue the county. Oh, wait. Southern District of New York.
That's his attorney.
Combs Law, you asked the district judge. Okay, so this is New York, not California. So stayed for almost a year since Combs no longer charged with trafficking. He wants to be released to his home in Miami on $1 million bond. I mean, who cares about being released on a bond? You're about to be out. I mean, you go for it. Go for it, you know. Do your bond, pay $100,000. Show back up at court and get your money back.
Oh, her last name is Ventura. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, Cassandra. But it is one of those things like, yeah, you sue. And, like, to be honest, I think you get Trump's lawyers and you sue. You go, this was a witch hunt. This was a witch hunt. You know, you defamed me. And, you, like, look at these charges you didn't even bring a case against. You brought all this stuff out. Also, imagine if you are Cassandra Ventura, right? This has not gone well for you. You know, like he clearly, like he beat the hell out of you. You got a new fella now. That's all good. But you're worried about all this footage of you at that house with however many people at any given time, on drugs, multiple days, all this kind of stuff. And you're probably a bit worried. He's maybe been blackmailing you a little bit. Keep your mouth shut or da-da-da-da-da. Well, you haven't kept your mouth shut now. After he gets out, like in 2025, 2026, are we about to see a bunch of Cassie footage flood that perhaps gets blamed on the investigators? He goes, I don't know. I don't have that footage. Y'all raided my house and you took everything. Obviously, it was somebody in the district court. You know, obviously it was someone in the police department. I'm outraged by it.
He's going to release an album, too.
Well, you know,
he's going to capitalize.
I mean, probably.
My God.
Well, you know, King Combs, his son, King, put out a few songs with. Put out some songs with. Who did he put out songs with, Charlie?
Don't know.
I'll give you a clue.
Oh.
Kanye!
Wow.
Kanye and King Combs called Free Diddy.
Ah, of course it is.
And there's a few other ones.
Kanye's going to capitalize on it, too.
I think Kanye used his same chorus from Heil Hitler, the banger of a song. It's so catchy. And he changed it he made a Christian version of it.
Of course he did.
Where instead of Heil Hitler, it says, I don't know, Hosanna or something. I don't know. It says something churchy, you know? And I think he still says the N-word, but it doesn't matter. But I think he used that same chorus of fellas for like the Free Diddy as part of the kind of chorus. And yeah, King says that he ain't gonna sleep till Diddy free. Maybe that's what it's called, Diddy free, like duty free, Diddy free. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that's the new news today. We're gonna see how that shakes out. I think it's gonna be chaotic, and it'll be interesting to see if Diddy slows his roll or has now feels totally bulletproof. You know, like he went to jail for a little bit. Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty.
And he's just had time to sit and think and plan.
And maybe he sold footage to CIA. Maybe he didn't. Who knows? Question is, are people going to still go to his parties? His white parties and stuff? I think they do. I bet you they go to it 20. Like maybe if he gets out this year. Like I don't know when these parties are. I think white parties in the summertime up in Long Island. But I think maybe he like gets his ducks in a row. But I bet you 2026 he throws maybe not an official freak off, maybe just parties. But I think people start going to the parties, and I bet you at least some of the parties have a low key freak off that are, a tighter window or tighter group of people. It'll also be interesting if once the sentencing comes, that I got time served, you're free to go. If Ashton Kutcher comes back to the country, because like after Danny Masterson, I was like, oh, he's a great guy. Like me and Mila will write a letter of recommendation about how great he is. Gonna find out not so good. And then they go, also Diddy too. And he goes, I gotta get out of here. And Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis just have been gone. Just been gone. They're like, I don't know. We'll see how this shakes out.
Yeah, you started your nonprofit organization for human trafficking, and now you're caught up in this.
And you go, hey, I had to go to that non-extradition treaty country. So we'll see how this all goes. But if Ashton Kutcher comes back immediately, he was up to something at those parties. He got down with something. All right, yeah, I don't know. We won't go into all the Chinese people on the arrest. We'll do this at some point. But there's Chinese nationals keep getting pinched, doing no good stuff. Biological pathogens. That was pot. What was the new one? That was spine. What was the new one? 2 Chinese. Oh, yeah, they're trying to recruit Navy members.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so they just keep busting these Chinese cats trying to either bring in pathogens or drugs or what was the other thing that one person was sending biological samples that was different than the pathogens. And anyway, Chinese are doing Chinese things.
You seen their dragonfly drone?
I haven't, but I've seen prototypes of dragonfly drones before.
Jesus.
Oh, I did see it. I saw it on Twitter, and someone was like, "Man, that thing shows up in Florida. It's getting swatted." That's wild. These drones are gonna be this drone stuff is gonna be wild. Like Ukraine turning drones into the weapon, which then was used by Hamas and then used by Iran and Israel and everybody. Everyone's just like, you know what? That's true. We can just build another drone. Just like, because with the drones that we've always used in the United States, which are like large drones, they shoot things, they drop things. We like to recover them whole. We don't want to give up any of the secrets. Why not make a drone with less secrets and a payload on it, and you just ram it into stuff? By the time they see it, they go, oh! And so I think that's going to change a lot, especially at sea. I think those little dragonflies, or maybe even something bigger than that. But take some fairly small sized drones, release a swarm out of them out of a little pirate ship, go after an aircraft carrier. Don't go high, go low. Yeah,
you do the mothership drone that releases the mini drones.
Sure, you got that too. But if you went from a pirate ship as opposed to like a Sky or whatever, you just don't go high off the water. Aim for the hull. Go aim for the water line. Crash into it.
They probably can track the waves too, so they'll just be doing this the whole time as low as possible.
Yeah, I mean you'll lose some, but not all of them.
That's crazy.
And you just put enough holes in the hole near the water line, like they've got some defenses in there. But then and that only needs to be one attack. You attack on multiple areas. But like the guns on the top of these ships are not made to aim straight down. I'm sure they got something, but like I don't know. That's if I had not a lot of money, or if I was outgunned against a greater force, but I did have a lot of drones. That's what I do. Payloads towards the hull. Take out the big boys, because they'll scramble to get the jets off, I imagine. Most, if not all of them. But, you lose a lot of people, and you lose a big, expensive piece of equipment. And you can't use that thing to bring jets back out here again, So, warfare is going to change. And the only thing that feels optimistic is it feels like all of these wars should mean fewer humans dying. Like comparatively, World War II, all trench warfare, there's a lot of people dying. Maybe the more things go with drones and precision missiles and all that kind of stuff, I don't know. Maybe there'll be less civilian casualties and less military casualties, and just, I don't know. Maybe at some point we have to rethink war in general, because we go, look, we can all take out each other's military, whatever things all day, but it doesn't change the fact that blah, 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 blah. Maybe we'll have to turn to diplomacy. That'd be a crazy idea.
Easy.
Yeah. All right, Charlie, how do you want to leave the people?
Enjoy bourbon.
Enjoy bourbon. Brought to you by these people that we can't pronounce, and our printer. The printer who always chimes in. All right. Bye.